Good morning. Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes for Thursday, July 8th, 2023. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. I was up fairly late last night doing a bunch of things, and so I slept in a bit this morning. Yeah, the other day in one of these behind the scenes journal, podcast, videos, whatever they are, I was talking about technology quite a bit. Because I'm doing my own technology stuff. But then a friend of mine in Canada wrote me an email just talking about the impact of modern technology on our lives. Has it made it better or worse? And he was curious what my opinion was, so I wrote back to him and with some of my thoughts. And the one thing I did say as a negative was the time suck, how much time it takes. And that's never more apparent, of course, than whenever I try to do anything with technology. Like this morning, all I wanted to do was set up the GoPro, sit here with a cup of coffee, and start talking. It's like my morning ritual. It's my morning journal. I normally write all this down. And, with YouTube, I thought I would do like a video journal. So I want it to be fast and easy. But of course, nothing is ever fast and easy. So I set up the GoPro. I've got it all set up here. And of course, lighting in here isn't great. I'm fiddling around with that, and more about that in a minute on the positive side. But on the negative side, I got all settled in here. I've got my coffee, I got my laptop, I've got everything ready to go. I hit the GoPro app because I want to be able to sit here and start and stop recording. And then I launched the GoPro Quick app, they call it. Never liked that name for whatever reason. It's just Quick app. I don't know what that is. But it wouldn't work. It said, can't find the GoPro. And I'd done this a few mornings in a row, testing and then using it, and it did connect all the other times, but it said, no, can't find it. We can't find your GoPro. So 30 minutes later, I finally have it up and running. So the first 30 minutes of today, and the day is far from over, was spent just fiddling with the technology, just trying to get it to turn on, just trying to get it to work. I'm not using the technology. I'm not actually getting anything done with it. For whatever reason, my smartphone app would not connect with my GoPro. And you go through all the usual steps, you're hitting on the buttons, whatever. Okay, none of that is working. You check to make sure Bluetooth is on and Wi-Fi is on. You check the GoPro. I've never understood the relationship between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Like whenever you do one of these app things, you need both of them. And I've never understood why you need both. It's like they say, you connect using Bluetooth. Okay, connect, Bluetooth, we're connecting. And then it starts talking about how it's establishing a Wi-Fi network. And then you have to connect to that Wi-Fi network to connect the two. Like, why? I've never understood that. It's like, okay, if we're connected on Bluetooth, why do we now need a Wi-Fi network? Because sometimes this Wi-Fi network won't work, but the Bluetooth does. And you have to have both turned on, and then when you go to your GoPro, it doesn't say Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. It just says connections. Turn connections on or off. And I'm like, well, I don't know. The vocabulary isn't consistent, and I like to be able to understand things. Even if they work, I want to know why they work. I'd like to know. But anyway, I did all that. I confirmed connections was on, Bluetooth was on, Wi-Fi was on, batteries are fully charged, everything's ready to go. Still can't connect, so of course you do the next step. I turned my GoPro off and on, thinking when it powers up, it will launch a connection. That didn't work. So then I turned my phone off and on. I rebooted my phone. That didn't work. So eventually what I did was go onto the GoPro and redid the pairing all the way from the beginning, as if I'd never done it before. So I went into the settings on the GoPro and said I'd like to pair it, I'd like to connect it with Quick app, and there's a button there that says, repair. So I do the repairing. They have to go through all the steps all over again, and then it worked. So, I guess I'm happy about that it worked, but I'm not happy about the 30 minutes of time and energy. And then it affected my mood. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm just all, It's like I'm all upset to start the day because nothing ever works. So I love the technology, but I do not like the time suck. And there are all kinds of things about my MacBook too. I guess I just don't understand Apple and my Apple ID, because everything I do on the Mac, like any change I try to make, it keeps asking me for my passwords. And of course I have two passwords for the Mac. There's one for my Apple ID and then one for the, the physical computer itself. And then every time I turn on the computer, I keep getting all these messages saying, oh, there's a problem with your Apple account. You have to log in again. And it's a hassle to log in because I use Password Manager, and my Apple ID password is like, whatever, 50,000 characters long, because I let my Password Manager handle all that, and it uses uppercase, lowercase, special characters. It's not like I didn't choose my password as my password. I used a very long, complex character. And I can't memorize all these, so I have to. My Password Manager also won't stay on the MacBook. It's all, even when I tell it to stay on for the next 30 days, every time I turn off the computer and I turn it on again, I'm kicked out of my Password Manager. So I have to log into that every single time. It's supposed to be there operating for you in the background conveniently, but it doesn't for me. I get logged out every time. And I think it's because Apple has so much security measures built into it. They're very, very tightly wired, compared to a Windows environment, which is why you need a password constantly. You want to download a new app, you have to enter your password, your Apple ID, to do it. And every single time it tells me there's a problem with my Apple ID and I have to log in to fix it. So I log into my Apple ID and then there's nothing there to fix. And then I go, and then the next day, oh, there's a problem with your Apple ID. And that message will come up all day long. It's like a pop-up. Oh, there's a problem. And I'll just click later, pops up, later, pops up, later. I just keep saying later, 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 because I know if I go to try to fix it, it never tells me what's wrong. It doesn't tell me what to fix. There's nothing to fix. I can log into my Apple account and there it is. There's nothing wrong with it. And then I go back to my computer next day. Oh, there's a problem with your Apple ID. Click here to fix it. And then I have to go through all the login procedures. And so now I just hit later, 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 later. I just do that all day long, It's like, oh, technology. The horrible thing is I make my cup of coffee because I want to enjoy it piping hot. As soon as I fire up the GoPro, I want to start everything at the same time. But then I try to start it, nothing works, and then I'm so busy trying to fix things, I can't really enjoy my coffee, and by the time I'm ready, all the heat is gone, and now it's a lukewarm cup of coffee. So GoPro even ruined my morning coffee, and that's a terrible sin. You don't want to do that. Since I'm talking about negative things, another negative thing, another key broke on my keyboard. A while back, the letter T snapped off. Not because of trauma. I didn't drop the keyboard or hit it with a hammer or anything. I just type as normal. But maybe I type pretty hard. I've noticed that. I hit keys pretty hard, and I guess this keyboard can't stand up to the thumping because I do a lot of typing as well. And eventually, the letter T just snapped off. And I went through this big procedure trying to get it fixed at some shops. And they wanted to replace the whole keyboard and for a fair amount of money. And I eventually figured out that I could take another key on my keyboard, pop it off, and replace the broken T with the one I never use, and it would snap into place. Like when I look at the two, I don't see anything wrong with them. Like under extreme magnification, I still cannot see anything broken on the clips. So I do not know what is broken on it, but the T would not click into place. It just pops off every time I try to type. And the new one, which as I said, looks exactly the same, it will snap into place and it's locked in place. So that was fine. But then a couple of days ago, another one popped off. The letter I popped off. And same thing. I look at it. I can't see anything broken on it. but I searched around my keyboard and I found another like special characters key that I never, if ever, use. And I carefully, as carefully as I could, removed it, and I snapped it into place on the letter I. So it's a good thing I'm a touch typist. I don't look at the keys as I type, because slowly but surely, all the keys will be different, right? I'll have, yeah, I guess I have to find old junked MacBooks somewhere in a junk store or something, and then I can use it as a source for keys in the future every time I need one, I need an electronics junkyard of my own where I can scavenge spare parts. So that was another negative thing. Oh yeah, the other negative thing, I was talking about TikTok the other day. I finally signed up for a TikTok account. And there are all kinds of weird things about that because of my physical location in Malaysia. TikTok signed me up as a Malaysian, basically. And I'm getting all Malaysian videos, targeted for a Malaysian audience. And maybe over time, if I use TikTok, maybe TikTok will learn things that I like. It'll learn that, anything about a GoPro. Oh, Doug's clicking on it. Anything about a Malaysian news story where the TikTok is in Malay and I can't understand it. Well, Doug's swiping away. I guess you swipe up, on TikTok. Doug's swiping up. So maybe it'll learn, and then eventually I'll end up with a feed of videos that suit me and my language preferences and things like that. But at the moment, it thinks I'm Malaysian because I signed up in Malaysia, and I couldn't really fix that. But then when I signed up for the account, I talked about how I never quite understand how, nickname versus username versus actual name, you have to input all this information. I got that figured out. But then they always send you an email, and you have to verify your account from your email account before it will go live, before it's activated. So they sent me the email from TikTok. And I'm always nervous about that, of course, because the rule of thumb for security is you do not click on links in emails or messages. Like, even if it's someone, I was pretty sure this was from TikTok because I just signed up for TikTok, and boom, I just got, everything looked right, the language was right, it looked professional, it looked real, and there's a link, click on this link to verify. I prefer it when you can see the URL, and then you just go to your web browser and physically type in the URL, like you go to that website, and then you can see, okay, this really is TikTok, and then you can, rather than just clicking on a link without knowing where the link is taking you. But in this case, I had no choice. It just said, blue button, verify your account. But of course, it doesn't work. I click on it, I get an error message, again and again and again and again, and it just says, nope. Can't do it. So I thought, oh, I can't verify my email address, so TikTok is not going to open for me. But it did end up working. I have it on my smartphone, and it does work. My account is open. Everything looks fine. But I have not been able to verify my email address because I just get an error message, and I don't know why. I'll never ever be able to fix it. But apparently it doesn't seem to matter, so that's okay. Now, the good news. I discovered something on a GoPro. I guess it's good news, bad news. The good news is I discovered something amazing about GoPros that I never knew. The bad news is that it demonstrates just how dumb I am. Because this is something I should have been aware of. Because it's about shortcuts. There are shortcuts on the GoPro that, I knew they were there, but I never made the effort to understand them, because when I looked at them, just kind of glanced at them casually, they didn't seem useful to me, and I didn't understand how they worked. They didn't make any sense to me. And this is going to get a little bit technical for any, non-GoPro people out there. But the new GoPros, maybe starting with the 8, probably, the Hero 8, because I didn't have this on my Hero 7, but this is a Hero 9. I have two Hero 9s. On this one, the microphone input is broken, like the USB-C port doesn't work. I can charge it through the USB-C port, but if I plug in a microphone adapter or put this one into the media mod, it's supposed to connect to the audio input from the media mod. It won't work. I get no audio on this one, but it's still, other than that, in perfect condition. So I use it perfectly sealed, like the door is closed on it, so it's waterproof. And I can use the built-in mics on the GoPro. So if I'm using two GoPros, I put that one, the good one, on a grip, and I'll put this one here on a chest harness or something, or I want to do something special, I'll use this one. So I have two GoPros. But with the Hero 9, when you change settings, you use presets. And right off the bat, I'll say that I do not like them, the way GoPro implemented them. I mean, in general, presets are good, but I like the presets to be one level beneath the menu. Like on the Hero 7, if I want to change a setting, like I want to change it from, I want to change the frame rate from 30 frames per second to 50 frames per second, you just open the menu. Open the menu, there are all your settings, and you just change all your settings. You can change the white balance, change the exposure. All your settings are there, and they're laid out in the menu. And I don't know, that's just intuitive, it's logical. But with the Hero 9, it doesn't work that way. I can't actually access the menu settings because the presets are on the top. So the only way for me to get into the settings is to open a preset. And you're always logged into one preset. You don't have a choice. And that's what I don't like. Other electronics I've had, you've got the menu system, but then if you want, you can have a preset with a whole, like a specialized group of settings. Like you want to do slow motion in the dark, for whatever reason. And you do this quite often. Rather than changing all your settings, you create a preset and call it slow motions in the dark. And then one click, you pop into there and it changes 10 settings all at once, which is great. But as I said, normally you have the menu on the top, just normal camera menus, and you can change all the settings. And then if you want, you can choose a preset. GoPro, for whatever reason, chose to make the presets the default. So you are always in a preset. You have no choice in the matter. So the only way I can access settings, the preset is down here at the bottom, and I'm in custom 1 right now for some reason. You have to click on the preset. It gives you a list of all the available presets, and then you have to click on the edit button on that preset, and now you're finally in the menu, and I can change things. But I'm not changing the settings for the camera, if you see what I mean. I'm only changing the settings in that preset only. So if I did want to change to another preset, if I want to change that setting, I have to change it for that preset as well. There is no master setting for the camera, if you see what I mean. There are only presets, and you're forced into them, and every time you want to change a setting, there's so many steps you have to go through. And when GoPro was launched this, I remember watching all the reviews and all the YouTubers out there who I have less and less respect for all the time. They were doing their usual cheerleading routine. Oh wow, this is amazing. GoPro has presets, and they talk about all the advantages of presets. And as I said, there are advantages to them. You want to do slow motion, you want to do close up, you want to do time lapse at night. You can create a preset for all those situations, and that can make your life a lot easier. But the way GoPro implemented them, that there are no more, you can't actually go into the settings anymore. You're always in a preset, and that made changing the settings much slower, much more awkward, and much more complicated. And as soon as I saw that, the way it was implemented, I was like, okay, that's ridiculous. Why did they do that? But of course, everyone on YouTube just talked about how great presets are and ignored the fact of how they implemented them. So, and then, long story here, Every time I went into the preset, okay, now I got to choose edit that preset before I finally get into the settings. And now I have a big menu here. And then as I scroll all the way down to the bottom, it says shortcuts. And there's a list of 4 shortcuts. And I guess you can choose settings there. And I kept seeing them there and seeing them there and seeing them there, but they never made any sense to me because they were inside the preset, right? It's like, well, logically, okay, there's a shortcut inside the preset. Why? Like, a shortcut is designed to bypass everything. Like, you don't have to go into the menu system. You don't have to be in anything special. So I would glance at that over and over, and somehow my brain would just look at it and go, I don't understand what that means. And then I left it there. I was so busy with the presets, setting up presets, and all the settings were preset specific. So for example, if I wanted to have linear, the field of view, linear field of view with 50 frames per second, at a certain exposure, I created a preset for that. And then if I wanted to use wide field of view, I created a preset for that, because that's the way it's implemented now. And then you had to remember all these settings, because it was just crazy. I don't think you can name your presets. I haven't figured out a way to do that. So it's not like I could call my presets linear, wide, or anything. You just have to use the default names. So you have to commit to memory what your presets are. So I kept having to check anyways, like, hey, which one is wide and which one is linear? But anyway, I had it all set up on presets. So I didn't see how shortcuts could even fit into that. So I just never looked into it. Maybe I clicked on a button once in the past and then I just forgot about it, because sometimes lately I ignore shortcuts because I don't have enough room in my brain. Like, for example, on the MacBook, the touchpad is very sophisticated, and it knows if you're using one finger or 2 fingers or 3 fingers. Like, if you swipe with 2 fingers from the top to the bottom, it does something. If you swipe with 3 fingers, it does something else. If you go from left to right with 2 fingers, it does this. Left to right, right to left with 2 fingers. So you can go into the corner. Each corner has a shortcut. Now, when I first got the MacBook, I thought that was pretty cool, and I learned all of them, and I set it all up how I wanted to, but eventually I just couldn't remember them anymore. I just gave up because there's just too many things, and once I had a mouse, and I just like to use a mouse, and I just click on things, keep things under my control. And I guess I have so much technology in my life now, I don't have enough brain cells left over to remember 3-finger swipe from this corner to that corner does this, and 2-finger swipe that I do in a swirl does this, and then I can use all 10 fingers and do this, and I can't remember them all. So I just stopped using the gestures on the touchpad. I don't use them anymore. And then the shortcuts on the GoPro just fell into that same part of my brain where I looked at them and I was just like, I can't be bothered. However, just recently I was doing a lot of testing with audio, and I was trying to use the media mod for audio. And as I described elsewhere, the problem with the media mod microphone, it has 2 microphones, front and rear, but you can only use one at a time. So every time you turn the GoPro around, the microphone is pointing in the wrong direction. You can't use both at the same time. You have to keep switching from one to the other. And what I did, I was chatting with Daryl from Wander Eats, and he was talking about Remote Darren. He uses the media mod microphones, and he gets excellent audio quality. Like when he's often in a park, like a park setting, and it's very, very quiet. So I think that's part of it. He's not in the middle of like roaring traffic for his most recent videos. And Daryl was talking about this amazing audio quality he was getting from the media mod. So I thought, okay, well, let's give that a try. And I understood that Darren switched from the one mic to the other by using a preset. You take one preset and it uses the front-facing mic, and the other preset uses the rear-facing mic. And then to switch from one to the other, you have to click on the preset, click on your preset, choose another preset. It's like a multi-stage process. So I tried doing that, and I just found it really awkward and slow. I just don't like doing it. And then I stumbled across the fact that I can assign one of these shortcut buttons, the ability to change the microphone. So it's still two button clicks. I don't think I have it set up right now for this GoPro, but on the back of the screen, there are 4 buttons on the screen, and they are there all the time. Like, they're not physical buttons, but they're on the screen, and there are 4 of them, and you can customize each one. And it's actually quite simple. So I haven't set this one up. I've set up that GoPro, but I'm going to set this one up where I can choose. How do I do that now? Oh yeah. So then you click on it, and then you get a menu, and you get many different settings. You can choose what this button does when you click on it. So it's all kinds of things. You can turn the wind blocking mechanism on and off. You can turn on raw audio. And here's the media mod settings. Now, ISO, sharpness, field of view, white balance, exposure compensation, shutter speed, bit rate, zoom, all these things. So what I do is I choose media mod. And now with that button, yeah, it's grayed out because I don't have it in the media mod. But if it was in the media mod, now all I have to do is click on that button, and then I can choose front or rear microphone or none. So basically I have a shortcut button on the screen to control which microphone I use. And I've set up the other ones. I have another preset now that controls field of view, narrow, linear, wide, super view. I have another one for slow motion, which I never use, but I keep thinking I should. So I still have it set to slow motion, and I have another one set to exposure compensation, which I use all the time. So that's the technology good news that I discovered shortcuts, and they're good. They work well. So that, and yeah, it makes me think about these YouTube reviewers as well, because it's not like I don't watch, YouTube tutorials on the GoPro or people talking about it, and they talk about all the great features. I've watched tons of those, and as far as I can remember, I've never seen a video where they talk about the shortcuts and how easy they are to use. Had I known, had I stumbled across it, I might have been using it for a long time. But anyway, that is the technology good news. Shortcuts on the GoPro, probably Hero 8, 9, 10, and 11. They would all have shortcuts like that. And it's implemented well. Oh, the final thing, I was so confused about how every time you go into a preset and way down at the bottom were the shortcuts. And logically, that didn't make any sense to me. But I did some research, and then the light bulb finally went off. And I guess this is good. For me, it's not, but I guess it's good. But every preset has its own shortcut selections. So right now, I'm changing what all the shortcut buttons do, but I'm only making those changes when I'm in this preset. If I change to another preset, the function of all the shortcut buttons changes. So that's why every time you open a preset, it has its own shortcuts down at the bottom, because you can set an individual set of shortcuts for each preset. You customize, that's the word I'm looking for. You customize the shortcuts for every preset. It's not a universal default for the camera, which makes sense when you think about it. But the way I use cameras, for me personally, I would rather have them as a universal default outside of the preset system. Just give me these shortcuts for the camera so I can access exposure right from these shortcuts. And I don't have to think about what preset I'm in. You know what I mean? Anyway, it makes it overly complicated in my mind, but maybe I'm not thinking about it clearly enough. So that is the end of my technology thoughts for this morning. I just made myself another cup of coffee and I kind of reset everything here. And I guess I lied. I said that was the end of my technology thoughts, and it kind of is. But I've been doing a lot of audio equipment testing lately, and it occurred to me that I could test a couple of microphones right now while I'm recording this video. In particular, I have, I use a Rode Wireless Go, which, why am I having so much trouble with my coffee? I have to put it down. Yeah, so I have such a crazy brain and kind of habits. It's like very small things make a big difference. And when I get a hotel room that has a bed like this, but for me, it has to have a bedside table on the right. So when I sit down like this, my laptop on my lap, I have a place to put my coffee over there. And I'll rearrange the entire room just so I can do that. And then for whatever reason, I haven't done that in this room, and it's kind of driven me crazy. But I could, if I wanted to, move the bed over, and then I could take the bedside table and put it over there on that side. I should have done it. Yeah, I don't know why. I guess because this room is so small, if I move the bed over, it makes the rest of the room almost impossible to move around in. That's why I didn't do it. But normally I do. I'll always try and put a table over there. And without it, I either have to put the coffee over here, and that's really awkward to get it, or I put it down on the mattress, kind of nestled against my leg. But of course, someday it's going to get knocked over. I've been doing this for decades, really. And I've never, ever knocked over a cup of coffee yet. So I just jinxed myself, didn't I? Anyway, it's very awkward in here right now. But yeah, I use a Rode Wireless Go microphone, which is like a lav mic, which sits here, but it also has a microphone input. So that raises the possibility of using a traditional wired lav mic, and you plug it into the Rode, which is what I've done here. So now I'm recording with this lav mic plugged into the Rode, and then there's a lot of advantages to doing that. The biggest is you don't have to have this around your neck anymore. You can just put it in your pocket. You got this cord, but that would normally go underneath your shirt, and it's not really a big deal. But yeah, you just put this in your pocket. But I can't remember the brand name of this lav mic, but ever since I bought it, it doesn't seem that compatible with the Rode. Like, it's too hot, as they say in the audio world. The signal is too hot, and it overwhelms the Rode somehow, and the audio always came out kind of distorted. Like, the signal is too powerful for the Rode to handle. But I haven't used it for a long time. I just wanted to do an experiment this morning, use it again, see what it sounds like. And then on the Rode receiver, I have the audio set to the lowest setting. On that Rode, I have it set to, actually I'm using my old Rode. Like, I have two Rode microphones. The original one that I used for years is this one, receiver, transmitter. The new one has one receiver and two transmitters. So I still have both. I didn't sell my old one. And I'm really happy about that because I love having the two for lots of reasons. Anyway, I just haven't shown this one much love recently, so I thought I would use it this morning. So this is my older one, the original Rode Wireless Go. And when you set it up, you don't have fine settings. You can't do -3, -6, -9, -12, dB. You only have 3. It's like low, medium, and high. And right now I have it set to low to try to compensate for the signal, but that doesn't really work because that low controls the signal it sends to the GoPro. It doesn't really control the signal that this mic is sending. Anyway, I've often been thinking about buying the Rode lavalier mic. This is the Rode Wireless Go, and they released a lav mic that they called the Rode Lav Go, Rode Lavalier Go, and it was designed specifically to be used with this. So they would definitely be compatible. So I keep thinking about buying one, but I think they're like, it's really expensive. It's like $100 for a simple lav mic, and a lav mic like this, which normally works very well, yeah, it costs like $20, you know, like 20% of the cost of the Rode. And I guess the Rode gear makes sense if you're in a studio and you're doing broadcast quality stuff. But, you know, for a simple YouTube channel like mine, to spend $100 on a lavalier mic, that's a big ask. So I've never gotten around to doing that. Well, I thought I would do, the next thing on my mind is YouTube. And in a previous video, I'm still using the GoPro Quick app to control the GoPro, but I still can't see what I'm recording, and I can't see any audio levels. So I just have faith that my GoPro is recording what I want it to record visually and in terms of audio. Let's put that over there. Let's put this over here so I can use my my mouse. In a previous video, I was talking about a few different YouTube channels that I've been following. And I feel like I should specify when I say that I'm following someone on YouTube, it isn't really that I love their videos so much. That's not really what I'm doing, because these are people who are very different from me and doing very different things from what I'm doing. So I'm not so involved in their story that I have to watch all their videos. What I'm doing is I watch some of them, and what I'm mainly interested in is how they do things. You know, they have a YouTube channel, and then they're traveling this way or that way. Like, what gear do they use? What choices do they make in terms of how they film, what they film, how they tell a story? And I'm sort of interested in them as people. I like to get behind the scenes and get an idea of who they are as people, and then I try and imagine what their life is really like, because the videos you see from most YouTubers has got nothing to do with their real life. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's kind of up for individuals to judge, and then I'll talk about that as I go through this. But one recent discovery of mine is a family, YouTuber family called Bags Packed Family. And I don't have a whole lot to say about them, but I did talk about them recently, so I thought I'd give a little update. Right now I've been watching a video where they took a bus from Malacca to Kuala Lumpur. And I was kind of interested in that because, according to the video information, it's a luxury bus, and they stayed in a luxury hotel in Kuala Lumpur. And I recently took the Aeroline luxury bus. Well, not recently, this was last year, but my video is going to be posted in a few days of my bus ride from Penang to Kuala Lumpur on the luxury, I keep doing air quotes, luxury Aeroline bus. And now that they were on a luxury bus, I just wanted to see how they filmed their experience, what their bus was like, and things like that. So I've been watching this video, and I could relate to a lot of things that happened to them, because they bought their tickets online. Like, it's a family of 5, mother, father, 2 young sons, and then a daughter. I think that their daughter is their oldest child, but not, you know, I don't think she's even a teenager yet, maybe 11. I don't know the ages, but, you know, 3 young children, a daughter and 2 little boys, and the mother and father. And they bought their bus tickets online through that website. Forget what it's called, like To Go. And then they booked it, and now they have their tickets. But when they got to the bus station, they were told, no, you can't board the bus that way. You have to take your online reservation. Now you have to go to the bus line counter and show them that, and they have to find it on their system and confirm it that you're on the bus, and then they print out the tickets. And until you do that, you don't even have a confirmed seat on that bus. You've got to print out the ticket officially. So like booking it online doesn't really help you out that much because you've got to go to their ticket counter anyway. And that struck me as interesting because I did the same thing in Mae Sot in Thailand when I left. I wanted to experiment with booking things online. I wanted to book a train ticket, I think, and I couldn't do it in Mae Sot. I had to book it online or stuff like that. Anyway, I was looking into doing that, and I did book my bus ticket through the same website, Something to Go. And then I had enough time that I actually went to the bus station a couple of days before my bus was scheduled to leave, just to confirm, and I showed them, okay, I have this. Like, do I have to do anything else? And they said, oh, yeah, you have to. They asked to see my reservation on my phone. They looked it up on their system. And then they printed out my tickets, and they opened up a manifest, and they wrote down my name on the manifest for that bus on that day. And I got the impression that until I did that, I did not have a seat on that bus. So you have to be careful about that. And they had that experience too. So I found that interesting. From a technical point of view, I find it interesting. I haven't done a deep dive into their technology. I'm pretty sure they're using a GoPro. I just noticed they have, in their video descriptions, they actually have gear listings. And it's very smart because they're Amazon listings, affiliated links, so that, if you look at what camera they have, it brings you to Amazon. And if you buy that camera from Amazon, they get a cut, they get a little bit of money. So they can make money that way. Okay, so they have the GoPro Hero 10. And they're using it, yeah, that's what I thought. They're using the GoPro Max lens mod, which costs about $100. And it's a special lens that you attach to the GoPro. And I don't really know what it does. I don't know why you need it, but apparently it gives you maximum hyper smooth. I don't know how a lens can make stabilization better, but it makes the stabilization better. It gives you ultra wide angle, 155-degree field of view. It gives you horizon lock. So even if your camera goes all the way around in a circle, like 360 degrees, the horizon doesn't change. So you can tilt it any direction you want, and you don't have to try and keep the camera level because it does it digitally. And then it does a bunch of other stuff. It's also waterproof. But my understanding was that even though it went super wide, it didn't distort. I thought that was the advantage of this lens. But the one thing I noticed about their videos is they're extremely distorted. And I assume they did this Max Lens mod because they've got 5 people and they're always sitting around in tight spaces, a little table in a restaurant. They all crowd around this one table. And then with a regular camera, you can't get everybody in frame. And the Max Lens mod, whoosh, the whole thing, the whole world is practically in the frame. But the way they have on their video, yeah, everybody is distorted. I mean, it's got that weird fisheye look to it. And I keep expecting their viewers to mention this and say that they don't like it. I'm trying to get rid of the video description. Oh, I see. Okay. So, but nobody ever does. I've never seen any comments saying, oh, I can't stand that fisheye look. Everybody's so weird looking. Your noses are huge and your face is all, any straight line in the background is like street lamps, telephone poles, buildings. They're all got these big curves in them because it's so distorted. And that's the downside to super wide angle because everything gets distorted. That's why you want linear. On the GoPro, the linear setting corrects all of that distortion, which is why it's the most useful setting on the GoPro. But anyway, yeah, I noticed that everything is very wide and kind of fisheye on their videos, but nobody seems to mind. It does bother me because I notice these things. I know that I'm looking at a scene right here and everybody looks weird to me, like this guy looks like a giant, this guy looks tiny, but I know they're the same height. The doors and the window frames, everything is on an angle like this. There's a door, a wall in this room, and it should be like this, but it's actually on an angle like this. It just looks weird to me. But I guess when you sit down and watch the video over time, after 2 or 3 minutes, you don't really notice it anymore. And I guess you just get used to it. But anyway, that's how they're filming it. And I was curious to see, yeah, okay, luxury hotel. Because I was chatting with Daryl about these various YouTube channels. The one comment I had was, wow, traveling with 3 children, that's got to raise your budget a lot. That's got to be expensive. You know, how do you, I mean, it takes a lot of time and energy to travel with 3 young children, but it also is more expensive, and you can't mess around. I mean, you can take a risk for yourself, of course, but now if you're traveling with a family, you probably, okay, you're making choices, I think, to stay in nicer hotels. You can't stay in the cheapest hotel because your children, you know, you have to look after them. And transportation, you may be willing to take the cheap local bus for yourself, but of course you've got 3 children, so yeah, your expenses probably creep up and up and up. And hotel rooms, you probably want nicer places for comfort levels for your children, all these sorts of things. But I like luxury hotel, you know, like 5-star level. I was like, wow, I didn't know they were at that economic level, because they don't dress that way. They dress like, you know, backpackers, normal people, t-shirts and sandals and shorts, you know, they don't look like they're rich people. So I saw this luxury stay on their video. But then I learned that they're smart people because they managed to get this whole hotel experience for free using points, right? Points and miles. And my whole life I've been hearing people talk about like, oh, I got points and I got, you know, upgraded to first class because of points. And I've never done anything with points and miles. I don't really fly enough, I guess, to get any benefits, but it's always been a mystery to me. I have no idea what all these points, I thought maybe they were even outdated now, because I used to hear about points all the time. Everybody's got like 5 credit cards, and they use the credit card that gives them the most miles, or the most, they have to figure out which is the best one to use. And I remember hearing about that a lot, but I don't hear about it much anymore. But apparently, yeah, they got 2 or 3 nights. I haven't finished the video. I'm not sure what hotel it is. I think it might be the Traders Hotel near Petronas Towers. The location seems right for the Traders, but I didn't know that the Traders look this nice, you know, in terms of the room. But that could be where they're staying. And, oh no. No. The Grand Hyatt Hotel, that's where they're staying. The vibrant heart of Kuala Lumpur, the Grand Hyatt Hotel offers unrivaled convenience with a mall. So, okay, that's where they're staying, the Grand Hyatt. I don't know anything about that hotel, other than now I know, I see their room. And they got a suite, like a huge, it looks like they have half the floor. I mean, it's massive. So that's very interesting. But it's kind of weird. I'm watching the video, they have this luxurious room, and yet as I'm watching the video, even as a viewer, I felt overwhelmed. It's too much. Like, wow, I mean, so many rooms, so much space. And he gave a room tour, you know, and showed all, you know, here's the bathroom, and they've got so many sections, so many luxuries. The table in the dining room was covered with a bottle of wine and fruit and chocolate, and I think all that was complimentary. And while they're moving into the room, every 5 minutes there's a knock on the door, and staff come in with more stuff. You know, they're bringing in towels and bathrobes and slippers and bags. The guy turned up the bag upside down, and all these fancy soaps and conditioners and shampoos and skin lotions just came pouring out. And there is so much in this room to explore, it was almost too much. It's like, yeah, a lot going on, you know. I find that can be true at times. I recently here in KL, I talked about this on another video. I went to see a movie with a friend of mine here, and he took me to like a new fancy IMAX theater. And by the time the movie experience was over, I kind of had the feeling like this theater was too much. You know, there's just too much going on that, you know, for me, the movie, the story, that's what I'm there for. And somehow all of the arcades and the coffee shops and the restaurants and the luxuries, and it was just like too much in a way for me. The GoPro battery just died, so I stopped there to recharge, to put in a fresh battery. And when I did that, I took advantage of the stoppage to listen to the audio a little bit. I played back that video, and using the lavalier mic on the GoPro speaker, it did sound a little bit distorted to me. Like, again, the signal coming from that lav is just overwhelming the Rode. But we'll see. I'll have to listen to it, you know, on the laptop for sure. But I switched back to the Rode. So this is the Rode Wireless Go again that I'm using. So yeah, I was just talking about how a hotel room like that can be overwhelming. I've stayed in some places like nothing. I've never stayed in a hotel room like that, not once in my life. But when I was in Thailand, I did stay in a couple of nicer places than I normally do, thanks to a mystery benefactor who booked the rooms for me. So I would end up with a hotel room that had 2 rooms, for example. You know, not a suite on the Grand Hyatt level, but it had, you know, a living room and a bedroom and a hallway and a bathroom at the end. And when you move into one of those rooms, it can be very exciting. You know, you run around and all this space, and it's so exciting. I can sit here. There's this, there's that, there's that. But after a day or two, my normal pattern will kick in, and I settle into a spot like this on the bed, and that's the only space I ever use. So even if you gave me 10 separate rooms, I would never go into 9 of them. I would live in one of them, and I'd probably choose the smallest one. For whatever reason, I like small, compact spaces. I've lived my whole life in little spaces like this. I prefer them for some reason. You know, if I had a huge house, I would immediately sell it and buy a studio apartment, right? Because what do I need a house for? It's just more rooms to clean, more rooms to fill up with stuff that I need to dust, you know, and that I'll never sit in, you know? So, yeah. So this whole, it's very fun, is what I'm saying, to move into the suite at the Grand Hyatt. But I think over time, they would probably just eventually their living space where they actually stay would compress down to one small area, and then a lot of it they wouldn't even use. Then again, they have 3 children, and for them, of course, to run around and zoom around and play hide and seek and enjoy that space would be, yeah, I can see how that would be pretty wonderful. Oddly enough, I think I heard them say at one point that they're going to go to Kuala Lumpur, but they only have 1 or 2 days, and then they're going to Indonesia. But I don't know. When I was looking at their overall channel, since this, there's been 3 more videos. So this video that I'm talking about was 2 weeks ago. So have they been in KL for 2 weeks? Did they change their plans? No. We'll find out. Though, as I said, though, to be honest, it's not like I'm going to watch all of their videos from beginning to end, because I'm not their target audience. You know, I'm not that interested in family life and the things they get up to. I'm sort of doing my deep dive from a point of view of like YouTubing. How do they shoot their videos and just all that kind of stuff. And following along with that, the other person I've sort of been intrigued by lately continues to be Paddy Doyle. In a previous behind-the-scenes video, I did a deep dive into his Philippines series. He's very much like Itchy Boots, extremely organized, like really well organized in terms of YouTube. So he will plan a trip to a new region or a new country, and that is like a compact experience. And he knows exactly how many videos he's going to make before he even gets to that country, and knows, I'm going to make a video here and one here and one here, 5 videos, this experience, that experience. And then he can organize them in playlists, and he can call it, you know, the Philippines series. And so his next one, he just announced it, I guess, is Switzerland. I thought it was kind of funny because I noticed this on his community tab. He posted an announcement, his upcoming video series, and it's all about going to Switzerland. And he posted FAQs, you know, questions about the series, the new trip and the videos. And the number one question is, number one, is there any singing this time? Because I talked about how in the Philippines he did this special project where he wrote pop songs in advance, and then while he was traveling around the Philippines, he would sing the song on camera. And then that was part of the video, him singing songs that he wrote himself with the help of a musician in Thailand. And the response to that was mixed, as I said. Some loved it, some hated it, but there was a lot of energy surrounding this topic of the singing in his videos. You know, it was like, was that a good idea or a bad idea? But he does. So he's getting questions about that, and his answer is, sadly, no singing this time. Although I think most of you will enjoy that fact. So I think overall he got the impression that his singing experiment was not really a success. You know, most people didn't really need that in his videos. Like even if they didn't mind it, I think the overall consensus was that, well, it didn't really fit these videos. So no singing in Switzerland, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Do they yodel in Switzerland? I could just picture him at the top of the Matterhorn yodeling or something, and then putting that in his video. I don't know. But I don't know anything about the Switzerland series. I think he posted one video so far, the very first one. Yeah, it's called Switzerland, My First Day in the Swiss Alps, brackets, blown away. So, yeah, I doubt very much that I will watch these videos. I think he posted a video about his trip to get there. It was like a 24-hour nightmare, he called it. So even in his Philippines series, he did the same thing. He had seemed almost like a standalone video about his flight from Thailand to Manila. And it also had information about planning his Philippines trip. That video I watched in full, because I find behind-the-scenes logistics interesting. And then at the end, he had a debrief video where he talked about the trip from an overall perspective, like a summary, a debrief. And then in the middle, those two videos bookended the Philippines series as sort of a logistical intro and a logistical outro. And then you have the chunk of videos in the middle, and those are the real videos. So I think he posted one about Switzerland, about flying there. I'll watch that video just to get the introduction. And then I'll probably, if he does a debrief, I hope he does, he said he will, there'll be a debrief, I'll dive into that and I'll watch that whole thing. The ones in the middle, I probably will just skim through. Again, I'm not his target audience for this sort of thing. And Switzerland, it's an interesting choice. And the whole idea of blown away, you know, a lot of his video titles, most YouTubers use language like that. I was shocked, I was amazed, I was blown away, I couldn't believe it. You know, you won't believe what happened next. The kind of clickbait that makes you want to click on the video, like, wow, you were blown away. But for the Swiss Alps, it's obvious why you're blown away. The scenery. I mean, I've grown up with images of Switzerland in my head. We've all seen it, postcard images of the Swiss Alps. The Matterhorn. I think the Matterhorn is in Switzerland. And so obviously the scenery is going to be gorgeous. I don't know. I just kind of smiled when I saw blown away in the title, because I had to sort of like, well, yeah, of course. You know, we all know that the scenery there is amazing, you know. Somehow blown away always makes me feel like it should be a surprise. Like, whoa, that blew me away. I had no idea. But if you're going to Switzerland, the Swiss Alps, it's not like the scenery is going to come as a surprise. You know, it's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. I mean, yeah, you were expecting that because that's Switzerland. And of course, I don't know if it fits with Paddy Doyle's style, because he's packaged his YouTube channel around this idea of next level adventures. That's his slogan. And Switzerland, for me, is more of a retiree guided tour. I think even my parents, I mean, once they went to Europe one time, and I think they were in Switzerland. It was like a guided tour, right? It was a tour group, and they signed up for a 2-week group tour of Europe, and they went to, like, 15 countries in 10 days sort of thing. They all piled on a bus, and they just get zoomed around from place to place to place to place to place. You spend like 30 minutes in each country, and then the bus stops long enough for everybody to pile out and take a picture from the scenic lookout point of the Swiss Alps, and then they pile back in the bus, and they go to have a stop at a nice cafe to have local snacks and drinks, and back in the bus and go to the next scenic lookout point, take pictures. So that is my mental image of Switzerland. If someone said to me, oh, here's a all expenses included trip to Switzerland, would you like to go? Well, yeah, obviously I would go. But if it's my own money, and you said, okay, you're going to spend your own money, you can go to Switzerland or you can go to Uganda, no brainer, I'm going to Uganda. I'm going to Ethiopia, I'm going to Cambodia. Switzerland would be way, way down on my list for my own interests. Everything in Switzerland seems like it would be perfect. Everything would work. Everything is going to be gorgeous. Everything's going to be organized, and everything is going to be incredibly expensive. And I don't know if you can go to a place like Switzerland and really come away with it with a feeling like you had an amazing personal experience. Maybe you can do it. I think one of his FAQs is, why is this next level? So he's sort of anticipating that reaction, I think. He's very self-aware with this kind of thing. Where is it? Okay, what is it that makes this next level? And he says that he's going to do a 150-kilometer hike from Grindelwald to Zermatt. I don't know any of these places. Grindelwald, isn't that an evil wizard from Harry Potter? Yeah, I think so. But I guess it's the name of a town. From that point of view, going to Europe, going to Switzerland would be interesting because I don't have the geography of Europe in my head. I'm just not familiar with the cities and places there. And if I ever went there, it'd be like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I know where all these cities are. But Grindelwald to Zermatt means nothing to me. I've never heard of. I think I've heard of both places, but I couldn't put them on a map for you. So a hike. But another interesting thing about his videos, again, being so organized, I started watching a little bit of this Switzerland video, and he has an introduction, like voiceover introduction to the Switzerland series, but this is his first video, and yet in the first video, he already has footage of all the places he's going to go to in Switzerland, or maybe 5 or 6 places. So obviously he made this video weeks ahead. Like he was already in Switzerland for several weeks having all these experiences, and then he went back and put together video number 1. And I assume he does this because he's very smart, because he wanted to have a beautiful introduction showing all the amazing places in Switzerland. But he doesn't have video of that yet, so he has to wait until weeks into the trip. Now I've got all this footage, all this drone footage, and he can show it. And that's the way he handles this. And one thing I noticed, though, he was talking about doing the 150-kilometer hike being a next level adventure, but the little video clip he inserted to show this, he's walking down a cobblestone road through the mountains, and it looks like a manicured park. So this is not like mountain trekking. This is Switzerland. So you're basically strolling through the Swiss Alps. Maybe it gets physically challenging and next level adventure along the way, but I seriously doubt it. I mean, it's not an easy thing to walk 150 kilometers. Like nobody does that normally. So that's an achievement. That's a thing to do. But so anyway, I'm going to follow his story here. Who knows, I may end up watching all of the videos, even though, as I said, I'm sure he's going to have endless drone shots of Swiss Alps. And I feel like I don't really need that in my life because I've seen it in movies and postcards and posters. Everybody knows what the Swiss Alps look like. So, yeah, we'll see. So that's Paddy Doyle. And I'd probably have a lot more to say had I watched his intro video, like the logistics one about flying to Switzerland, but I haven't watched that. But I'll probably have a lot to say about that. And the other person I'm following, of course, is Itchy Boots. And I talked about her in a previous video. And I have lots more thoughts. It looks like in her most recent video, I haven't watched it yet, she crosses from Sierra Leone into Liberia. So she's got another border crossing, and she's having mechanical problems with her motorbike. She couldn't get it fixed in Sierra Leone, so she's going to go to Monrovia, the capital city of Liberia, and see if she can get her motorcycle worked on there as well. And something I think about all the time, I wouldn't call it a pet peeve, but it's a minor pet peeve where people will always talk about how gear isn't important, like in photography or video, it's not the camera, it's the photographer, implying that, you don't need the best gear, that, the best camera is the one you have with you, right? You hear that all the time, that gear doesn't matter. And I would politely argue the opposite point of view. I think gear matters a great deal. A $4,000 Sony full-frame camera is going to take a nicer picture than my iPhone SE or my point-and-shoot camera. It just is going to, Of course, you do reach a point of diminishing returns. Like as I say, you don't need a $4,000 camera, but if you buy a $1,000 camera, it's going to be better than a $100 point-and-shoot. It just is. But more than that, the physical nature of your gear has an actual effect on the things you do and the experiences you have. A very simple example is, if you're shooting with a GoPro, if you're happy with the GoPro just as it is, like Casey from Camera Conspiracies, when he's shooting video with a GoPro, I think he can often just does this. His goal is just to hold on to the camera. So he hits record and does this, points it around, points it at himself, records audio, with the built-in things, and then he can just slide it into his pocket. Ta-da! I can't do that because I always have my GoPro mounted on a big grip, which doesn't bother me because I don't mind holding it in my hand all day long. But Casey likes to take his camera and just pop it into his pocket. And then when he wants to film, he can just take it out again. And I was talking about Dale Phillip, and travel vlogger, and he uses a simple GoPro on a little like a little mini tripod. And because of that, he can shoot a lot of video all the time. Like anytime he wants, he just whips it out, hits it. It's very fast and convenient. And that he can do that because his camera is so small and lightweight and portable. If you're carrying a Sony full frame, with a G-Master lens on it, that affects how you can film. You can't do this with a Sony full frame with a G-Master lens. You can't slide it into your pocket. It affects how you film, and it affects your day. It even affects the choices you make, where you're going to go, how much time you spend there. The gear you use has an effect on your life physically. And I noticed that with Itchy Boots' last video. She was in Sierra Leone, and of course Sierra Leone is famous for diamonds, and blood diamonds, as she puts as her the tag on the thumbnail, blood diamonds. And she was riding her motorcycle through an area that was filled with small family-run mines, where basically they're just using shovels and digging in the ground and looking for diamonds, and that's how they make a living. And she talks a lot about the history of diamond mining and everything. But the whole time I'm watching this segment of her video, I don't know, maybe I could feel some tension, because I think what she wanted to do was get close to the mines. She wanted to get video of people mining, and she wanted this very up-close thing. But of course, she's on this huge motorcycle covered in gear. She's got head-to-toe protective gear on, like for motorcycle crashes. She's got all kinds of protective gear. I think she even has like a vest with padding on it, like a hockey player. Huge helmet, cameras mounted on the chin of her helmet. With all of that, it's very hard to engage with anyone. And I had the feeling that she was riding her motorcycle alongside all these diamond mines. I don't think there were very many people there, but I could feel like she wanted to run into someone so that she could talk to them and get a story about diamond mining. Oh, you know, run into a miner and talk to them and get some local color that way. But she, almost the entire time, what she ended up doing was sitting on her motorbike, you know, with her helmet on, and then talking into the camera, telling verbally rather than showing. She was just talking about the history of Sierra Leone and the diamond mines. And I could feel like she wasn't really satisfied with that, because she wanted to, you know, be more personal. But to do that, of course, she'd have to stay there, put her motorcycle away in a hotel, you know, lock it up safely, get all her gear in her room, then go from her hotel with a small camera back to the mines, and then she could go walking around and go look at these places. But from her motorcycle, her gear and the logistics of her trip prevented her from doing that. And at one point she did run into a guy. I think that's even her thumbnail. Yeah, well, she included a thumbnail with her on her motorcycle with a local man behind her, you know, to show that, okay, showing some local stuff. But when I was watching that section where she's talking to the guy, I kept thinking about how weird it would be, because, you know, I think she was still on her motorbike with her helmet on, with all of her amazing gear. I mean, she really did present as an alien, like someone who came down from a far distant solar system dressed in an astronaut spacesuit. And then here she is having this conversation with this guy about, you know, oh, you mine for diamonds, and how many hours a day do you work, and how much money do you make per day? You know, she's having this conversation. But somehow I could feel like all of her gear, all of her stuff was just sort of a barrier between her and the experience that she really wanted to have. So that was my reaction to that video. That was my takeaway, and that's, you know, leads into my theory about the physical gear that you use affects how you live. And for YouTubers in particular, you know, the choice of equipment has a dramatic effect on your, you know, day-to-day life. So yeah, itchy boots. I'm looking forward to watching this video where she goes into Sierra Leone. And I'm curious whether she manages to get her motorcycle fixed. And I guess that's another side. You know, she chose a certain type of motorcycle for this journey, but of course it is highly specialized. And of course, if it starts to break down in the middle of Africa, you know, you may or may not be able to find anybody there that can fix it. And that makes me think of a series of travel shows, like travel documentaries by Ewan McGregor. He's done all these round the world motorcycle trips, and they're all documented on film. I think Long Way Round, Long Way Down, Long Way Up. And I remember on the first one, I think called Long Way Round, there was a lot of focus on getting set up for the trip. And I can't remember what they were, probably BMWs. I think he and his fellow travelers got, you know, state-of-the-art, incredibly expensive, powerful BMW motorcycles and outfitted them with all the gear they're going to need to go around the world. And then when they actually set off on this journey, I think they had a lot of trouble with the motorbikes simply because they were just so big. And then at one point, I think one guy on their trip just got rid of his BMW. Maybe there was a mechanical problem and he just, whatever, he got rid of it or sent it home or sold it. And then he just grabbed a local bike, like a local motorbike he bought in the market or something. And then I think he was much happier and having a much better experience because he was just like bombing around on a local motorcycle like all the local people do. And that motorcycle seemed more suited to the terrain. And then he didn't have to worry about it so much. He didn't have to fly in a skilled engineer mechanic to work on his BMW when it broke down. He could just roll it up to any neighborhood mechanic shop because they know those bikes and they've been repairing them their whole lives and they just got spare parts. Anyway, it just seemed to me it would be a better option to use some kind of a local motorbike. Like all the money you spend on the most expensive BMW motorbike in the world, I don't know, maybe you could just fly to Africa, buy a local bike, and ride it through that one country, and then when you get to the next country, just buy another local bike, you know, and just sort of travel that way, as opposed to the, you know, the itchy boot style of having a, you know, really nice Honda motorcycle, and then you have to have specialized mechanics and parts to work on it. I don't know. There are advantages one way or the other, because I've had the same thoughts when it comes to bike touring. You know, you might think you can just fly into a country and just buy a bike there. Like, why go to all the hassle of bringing your bike all the way from Canada, putting it on an airplane and flying it? But of course, with a touring bicycle and a touring motorcycle, you want to get it set up the way you like. You need mounting points for your bags, you know. You might want to have, like for a bicycle, you might want to have a certain bicycle computer on it, or power dynamo these days to charge your USB devices, all these things. So, you know, just buying a local bike, you're not going to have, it's not going to be set up the way you like. So, yeah, one way or the other, you know. And of course, there's all the licensing and permits and insurance. And if you have your own bike and everything is set up and the paperwork is all organized, you know, landing in every new country and buying a new motorbike, you're going to be facing local licensing and permits and things all over and over again. Anyway, but that was my main thought from watching the Itchy Boots video, the way her gear, you know, just, she was like a weird alien from another universe, and it kind of seemed like a barrier between her and the experiences that she wanted to have getting near these, you know, diamond mines. And because she did that, I think, in some other countries, I forget where it was, where she had the chance to get off the bike. I think this was in South America, and there was an area where they were gold mining. And I found that video very interesting. For me, much more interesting than her actual motorcycling videos, because she spent the day off the motorcycle, just her in normal clothing, and a local person brought her to an area where they're mining for gold, and then she actually went down into the gold mine, which, that was something else. And then, yeah, because her gear was all back in her hotel room, you know, she wasn't trapped by it. So anyway, that was quite interesting to see the gold mines. And one last YouTube story, and this was sparked by Daryl from Wander Eats. A long time ago, online, I got to know a Vietnamese YouTuber. I'm not sure I know how to say his name, but his name is Tuan Van Nguyen. So, like, I think you pronounce this name Nguyen. It's Nguyen. And so it's Tuan, Thuan, Van, V-A-N, and then Nguyen, or is it just Nguyen, Nguyen? But anyway, he's a travel vlogger from Vietnam, and his specialty is POV videos of markets. So he goes to, you know, places like all over Vietnam. Of course, that's where he started. Cambodia, Thailand. He was in Malaysia for a while, and then he went to Indonesia, I think the Philippines, and now he's in Nepal. And he will go to traditional outdoor markets, vegetable markets, you know, fish markets, street life, basically. And he 99% of the time, the camera is facing away from him, and he's not narrating, he's not speaking with people, there's no story, there's no voiceover. He puts a lot of information in captions, and in the, you have to turn on captions, and then there's a lot of information there about what things cost and the prices of everything. But he just shows all the local market workers at their different stalls, you know, preparing food, chopping up fish, chopping up vegetables, selling things, and he just captures the atmosphere of the markets. And as I said, a POV video he's not pointing, you know, at the very beginning, he points the camera at himself and says, "Hello, welcome to Nepal," and then he'll turn it around. And from that point on, it's just filming the life of the market around him. And so I was in contact with him a little bit online a while ago, and then Daryl's been kind of following his story as well. I don't really watch his videos because I'm in these markets a lot myself. I don't get a lot out of watching one of his videos because, you know, if he's in Indonesia filming the market, I mean, I just have to walk outside. I just have to go outside my door. It's like, well, okay, I can go see it in real life. I don't need his videos for that. But Daryl, he knows a lot about the traffic. Like, you know, you can put something called TubeBuddy. It's a plug-in for YouTube, and TubeBuddy will show you a lot of statistics about YouTube channels, how many views they get, where their audience is located, you know, what countries they're located in, and essentially how much money they make per month. And there's a website called Social Blade, which tells you how much money a YouTuber makes, but it's an estimate. It's not like an accurate figure, but yeah, I don't know whether these websites are factual or not, but you can go to these websites, plug in somebody's YouTube channel into their search engine or whatever, and it will give you a summary of all this statistical information about that YouTube channel. And Daryl will often do that, and he did it recently with Tuan Van Nguyen. And yeah, he had it's according to TubeBuddy and Social Blade and whatever other websites Daryl uses, he's been doing quite well. That for the last 30 days, his videos received 670,000 views, and they do all this mathematical wizardry and said he was earning like over $1,000 US per month from his YouTube channel. And I was like, wow, that's cool. But then when I went to his channel, like Daryl told me this, and I went, really? So I knew he was in Nepal, and I thought, wow, his videos in Nepal must be really popular. So I went to look at his videos, and I wasn't seeing anything like that figure. His most recent one, 2,000 views. The one before that, 1.7 thousand views, 1.8, 1.8 thousand, 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 18,000, 2.2 thousand, 2,000. So most of his videos are 2,000 views and below. And if you take, even factoring in the better ones, 30 days, I mean, at most you're getting 50,000 views. So I wondered, this figure can't be right. How can he have 670,000 views in the last 30 days? Because the math doesn't add up. So it's like, huh. So I was chatting with Daryl about that, but what I completely forgot is those 670,000 views is for his whole channel, not just the videos from the last 30 days. So on his channel, how many videos does he have? 425 videos in total. So every view of all of his catalog, the back catalog, and then Daryl went looking and found videos on his channel that had, you know, 400,000 views, 300,000 views. So whatever reason, those videos, they didn't really go viral, but they became popular and were, you know, people all around the world were constantly, those videos were showing up in their feeds and people were clicking on them. So, you know, YouTube was promoting those videos because people like them. And so his 670,000 views would come from those videos, not from his most recent ones, you know. So yeah, that was interesting. And as I said, I haven't watched, I think I watched one or two of his videos from Nepal when he first arrived there, when he was in Kathmandu. But then I stopped watching them because, as I said, I don't have a lot of interest in I don't have the time either to watch videos of traditional markets in Asia because, you know, I go to these markets myself. But his most recent one just says Nepal, real life in Kathmandu. And yeah, it's another POV video of markets in the narrow streets of Kathmandu. Oh, he's actually in the video himself here. Yeah, he does that from time to time where he will engage with the market seller and then join them. Like they might be chopping up vegetables and he'll ask, oh, can I do it? And then he'll try to do it. And then he gets video of himself doing that. So someone else must have been holding the camera at that point. And that's something I think about all the time for my own YouTube experience. Again, getting back to how your gear really does matter. The gear you have affects what kind of video you shoot. And in my case, I find myself all the time in a situation where I want to record some video, but because I'm holding the camera, I can't do it. Like holding the camera in your hand limits your physical movements and things you can do. So I've often thought that it would be interesting to make an effort to have someone else holding the camera, which you can do quite often where, you know, people are nice around the world. And if you're in a market, even in Indonesia, and you want a little bit of video of yourself in a situation, you could actually just turn to someone there, you know, hey, could you do me a favor? Can you hold the camera? And just sort of give the camera to someone you meet, you know, like find a student. Maybe they want to practice their English, something like that. They want to talk with a foreigner, and you can say to them, you know, find one of these students and say, yes, and yeah, I'm shooting a YouTube video. Do you want to come with me? Well, come with me for 30 minutes through the market, and here, can you hold the GoPro and just follow me and just film me everywhere I go? And then you can go into the market hands-free, talk to people, and then do things and try things and be more immersed in your environment, and then you just let this person you just met, you know, film you. Yeah, so I'm curious how, in that little section of his video, who he gave the camera to. Well, I'll find out later on. So, yeah, that is my YouTube roundup for this morning. And I have a bunch of other things on my mind that I was going to talk about this morning, but I think I'm going to end my little podcast, my journal video there, and I'll leave these other topics for another day because I feel like I've been talking long enough. So I'm going to shut down, probably have another cup of coffee, and get organized for the rest of my day. I'm meeting Daryl tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is Friday, and Daryl is going off on he has a normal life. He has a real life, so occasionally he has to go do things like bring his car in for servicing, you know, run errands. And it's great for me because he likes having me riding shotgun. And so he contacted me and said, listen, I'm going to X, Y, and Z tomorrow. Do you want to come along? And I'm like, yes. And I think Daryl is busy right now in the background planning special things for me. He's a very nice guy. So I'm going to bring my cameras with me tomorrow. Daryl and I will surely do some more audio testing. We're still working through some microphone stuff. He's still planning for his trip to Vietnam. He's going to Sapa. Well, he's going to Hanoi for business, but then he's taking a trip up to Sapa. So he's getting all of his cameras ready, his microphones, figuring out what cameras to bring, what gear to bring. So we'll be testing a few things, and perhaps we will visit a nice coffee shop, a nice restaurant, and I'm going to bring my GoPro with me and do some filming. So that will probably be a video that ends up on Planet Doug, hopefully soon. All right, see you in the next one.